Good afternoon. It's Jim Whitehead again. And for those who were so nice to give me a heads up that my sound was messed up, I hope we're going to find we're in much better shape this time. And we try every time to be good, and sometimes I'm not. But thank you very, very much. So, what I did is I switched to a whole new cable and a different mic. So, again, it looks like things are the way they should be. I admit that static sound has happened to me a couple times. And to be honest with you, I always have fixed it, but not exactly sure why it was doing that. So, as you would expect, we have a lot of things that kind of between the internet and streaming up to YouTube and everything here in my studio could be issues. So, you make sure you have good equipment and you make sure you do the best you can to make sure it's going to sound right. But in general, I don't usually hear that static until, and it's happened where I've gone through a whole presentation and it sounds terrible. And even in the world of YouTube, they kind of say, hey, don't delete anything. Well, I will, because it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to me, so why would it be acceptable to you? Okay, now back to the wonderful topic that we're talking about. And I said, I probably did this twice already, but this is my third time. It's always a charm. I have avoided talking about the Ukraine-Russian war in reference to animals. And this would be like with any animal in any conflict where you'd say they're innocent. They shouldn't have to be put through something like this because there isn't a place that they can go and hide and they don't even know what's happening. And then if you have to abandon them, understandably, that's a double whammy and a triple whammy. And if they get injured, we can go on and on and on. But the ongoing war in Ukraine has had a devastating and complex impact on dogs and cats, both domestic pets and strays. Strays you see, you want to adopt them all. On one of the LinkedIn, for example, they have paws where they pause 202, I'm not sure what the number is, but they will have it where the animals are, if they don't get adopted like tomorrow or 2 days from now, they're going to be not in good shape. So anyway, their fates have ranged from, hold on, I'm having such an issue. Oh, hell, heck. Hold on, we're gonna get there. Jeez. Do you ever feel like you shouldn't be doing anything? Anyway, okay, here we go again. I'm just starting all over again, but another button, yada, yada, yada. Their fates have ranged from abandonment and injury to becoming symbols of hope and even active members of the Ukrainian army. And when I get to that point, you'll say, boy, is that cool? And that's where, if you do a topic that you love and you kind of don't want to do it because you're sad about all the bad things you're going to have to say, which are true. I mean, if anybody would say anything about my presentations, they're real. The pictures are images, yes, but since I'm not in Ukraine, you know, we do our best on pulling the very best images that fit what I'm saying. And sometimes it works great. Just one little aside. Hello, grandpa. I have a great YouTube friend that calls me grandpa. Now, if you look at me, you'd go, why does he call you grandpa? I think you can figure that out. And I do have grandchildren that are not my own, but I think of them the same. Anyway, I'm fine, and thank you for being here. And I'm also, this gentleman is watching me, a young person, Games for Kids. I am watching you from Bangladesh. Wow. Thank you. That is great. Anyway, you can see that animals are just staring and saying, what am I supposed to do? And if an animal knew what to do, they would. So it isn't even where an animal would say, I don't want to be involved in this. I'm not going to help people. I'm not going to do anything good. Well, they would, but they obviously don't have the knowledge. Although I've said many, many times, animals are very smart. But you've got to respect that in certain with war and this going on, you're not going to have it where they can have anything to measure it by and say, this is what we need to do in this situation. They don't know. And I can't wait to get to the point of where I'm talking about when even they've been involved with helping the Ukrainian army. I mean, that caught me a little bit by surprise. Not that I wouldn't sit there and go, hey, you know, they're great, they're wonderful anyway. But that always makes me feel good that something positive comes out of a very bad situation. Anyway, here is a breakdown of how they fared. Displacement and abandonment. Now, what you're looking at here, and I do my best on pulling images that personify what I'm saying, but you can kind of get the idea that you've got a cat and a dog, and they're being abandoned. Because a lot of people did have to leave Ukraine, and I'm talking now that Ukraine has been going on for 4 years now. Unacceptable. War crimes. And I'll try to stay calm, but all the people, children, and animals didn't ask for this. They did nothing wrong to deserve it. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, and while many have tried to take their pets with them, countless dogs and cats have been left behind. This led to a drastic increase in the stray animal population. Some pets were locked, and this is sad, awful sad, were locked in homes without food, water, when their owners evacuated in a panic. I'll be the first one. When I think something's wrong, I can go, oh, do I have my phone? And that's a simplistic description of going, oh, I forgot my phone. No, I'm sorry. In fact, I shouldn't even try to make and put forth analogies like that, because you'd say, come on, Jim, that doesn't really fit what is the topic. So anyway, people sometimes had to make agonizing decisions to leave their pets due to the travel restrictions, lack of pet-friendly transport, or, and you've seen this picture, or difficulty crossing borders with animals, especially when the European Union, and they've done a good job in supporting Ukraine in a conflict that should have never happened. Anyway, they had to initially they dropped the rabies vaccination requirement, but they had to reinstate it after the initial waiver because, again, animals can carry rabies and people can die from that. And again, this is not something they did wrong. Now, the other awful thing, if they're left behind, animals like humans have been directly harmed by shelling, missile airstrikes, and other hostilities. And again, with the images, we try to personify that they're sitting here worried about everything. And they shouldn't have to be. But it's not their fault. Many have suffered injuries from shrapnel, starvation, and diseases like Durophilosaurosis. Sorry, I mess them up every time. Anything that's a word I don't typically use. The normal term for that is heartworm. And, you know, in normal times, heartworms do happen. We give Jamie, my wonderful 11-year-old Shih Tzu, she gets heartworm medication every month. And it is particularly dangerous for dogs because the term heartworm is exactly a very accurate description that worms get into a dog's body and they attack the heart. And if it's caught in time, they probably will be okay. But, you know, when you're in this crisis situation, nothing is done right. Nothing can be done quickly. And everything falls through the cracks. Now, as you're looking at, we overwhelmed shelters and there was a significant lack of resources. Animal shelters in Ukraine were often at capacity even before the war. And the influx of abandoned animals has severely exacerbated the problem. Now, I won't go to a shelter, and God forbid, when we do lose Jamie, I will adopt. And I will go to a shelter. But I know darn well I'll walk in, I'll go, I can't choose. They're all wonderful. And I mean that. Admittedly, the wonderful opportunity of linking. I can look at an animal can look at me, and this could happen to more than one animal, but you'd say, that's the animal that I'm going to adopt and give a forever home. Because every animal should have a wonderful home and a safe home and good food and treats. Anyway, shelters and volunteer groups struggled with limited space, food, and medical supplies. Now, rescue and welfare efforts. Despite the immense challenges Ukrainians and the international organizations have shown remarkable compassion and dedication to rescuing and caring for animals. numerous local and international animal welfare organizations like, and I don't want to mess any of these names up, but like Zoo Patrol, U Animals, IFAW, Humane Society International, Four Paws, and Veterinarians Without Borders. And you know, I never knew, I've heard of some of these, but I had not heard, yes, we'd heard, you know, Doctors Without Borders, but I didn't know that there were Veterinarians Without Borders. God bless. I mean, really, I'm actually feeling bad that I have not been directly involved. But you can see in the picture that these are wonderful caregivers that are going to help these animals be well and be safe and get all the things they need to hopefully have where they can go back to who they were with, or at least find a good home, and new people are willing to take care of them, and have the recognition that very possibly, if the family does return, that they would be able to say, hey, you know, I've done this for your animal or animals, and I'm glad you're back. So they've had to evacuate animals from combat zones. I mean, they don't just go, who cares? It's only animals. No. They don't do that. They do everything they can to save people and animals. And that's appreciated. And, you know, they even do this in combat zones, risking their own lives. They provide food, water, and essential supplies to animals in need. And a lot of times what you're seeing here is the animals are being taken care of outside on what looks like a surgical table. But it's like wherever you need to go, wherever you need to take care of these animals, we'll do it. Anyway, offering veterinarian care, including vaccinations, because, you know, when I said earlier that this is the fourth year, going into the fourth year. Well, a lot of these animals that, you know, let's say they have been protected and taken care of, they could very well need shots now or new vaccinations. They maybe need to be spayed or neutered programs, and treatment for injuries and illnesses. You know, animals, of course, develop illnesses, a lot of them some similar to what we have, but the life expectancy is so short. And that's one of my, not part of this particularly, but that I always say animals don't live long enough. And we would love them to live forever. And they will in our hearts. And again, I don't want to sound sappy, but it is how I feel. Anyway. Also, rockets and bombs and so on and so forth, and drones, they're not discriminatory. They're indiscriminate as to where they hit. So in some cases, they'll hit an animal shelter. And again, it's not that I would say, well, I'd rather have an animal shelter hit than an apartment building. I don't want anybody hit. But what these great organizations will do is rebuild damaged shelters. And this, with having a good shelter, can facilitate the reunification of pets with their owners. Anyway, volunteer initiatives have sprung up with individuals stepping up to rescue animals trapped in apartments. Now, I know this is a relatively good scene in the sense the cat and the dog look happy, but the purpose of this particular is just showing that this is where they were living, and their animal family had to leave unexpectedly in a rush, and unfortunately, whoops, we forgot something, and that's terrible. But and in some cases they were just stranded in these war-affected areas. And I'll be saying this, but part of the wonderful groups that try to do everything with having care and what have you, they were also going around to apartment buildings and looking, obviously, unfortunately, if there was an apartment totally destroyed, the recognition that no one would be there. But some of them didn't get hit, and very possibly there are animals locked in that apartment. So these organizations went door to door, of course looking for humans, but also looking for animals. Now, impact on stray populations and public health. The significant increase in stray animals poses public health risks, particularly with the spread of zoonotic diseases like rabies. And, what happened is the response, the Ukrainian government is launching a national pet registry to better track vaccinated animals to help reunite lost pets with their owners and improve animal welfare standards. I mean, that's just wonderful. Now, the other thing that comes along is animals as companions and symbols of hope. And this child having the cat and the dog, and I've always said, if you have a child and so on and so forth, they would be much happier that if they could, in essence, grow up with having pets. It makes all the difference in the world, I think. My mother loved animals. That's why I loved animals. But anyway. Many of the Ukrainians have kept their pets close, finding comfort and psychological support in the human-animal bond amidst all the chaos. Now, here's what is cool. I mean, you got to try to find good things and things that are not happy things. Some animals have become active members, I didn't make this up, of the Ukrainian army, providing companionship and even acting as rodent control in trenches. Images of rescued animals like a dog hugging a man after the Kakhovka Dam destruction by Russia have gone viral, highlighting the profound impact of war on animals and the resilience of those who care for them. Now, social media. This is social media. Some animals have become celebrities, like Stepan the cat, whose fame helped his owners escape Kharkiv. If you can say, I didn't actually save my animal saved me. Because, animals have unbelievably better senses than we have. And as I said, they're smart, but they can feel vibrations, they can hear sounds we can't hear. As you know, in most cases, they have animal dog whistles that it's a high-pitched whistle that we can't hear, but they can. So there's a lot of things they can hear that we can't. So anyway, in summary, dogs and cats in the Russian-Ukraine war have faced immense suffering and hardship, including abandonment, injury, and disease. However, their plight has brought forth a powerful display of human compassion with dedicated individuals and organizations working tirelessly to rescue, care for, and support these vulnerable creatures. And there you go. And you know, we could say this image is just where a dog and a cat, either A, this is their original owner, or somebody that says, you know, I'm going to take care of them for the rest of their life and make sure that they're in the best and get the best care, food, and support possible. So anyway, for those that started out watching me and I had to start over again, because the sound was terrible, I want to thank you all very, very much, because you gave me a heads up, and this just, I can't tell you how happy I am that my audio was wrong, was messed up, and not acceptable. You know, yeah, YouTube is kind of free, I know that, but you deserve on the platform the best that people or creators can do. And admittedly, we all get better. I'm a hell of a lot better than I was a year ago. And I know you probably say, but you didn't start out real good today. Well, you're right. You're right. It still has it where things go wrong. And that's why, you know, just about to end, but this is where, and why you have backup equipment. Because for whatever reason, one of my mics decided that it wasn't happy. So, because I had a second monitor, microphone all hooked, well, on, you know, the arm that we use to ensure we don't have to hold a mic, it obviously solved the problem. So, I want to thank you all for being here, and I hope and what I try to do with these all the time is have it where you learn something. And in the case of where I didn't want to do this, because again, I wouldn't normally say when I'm pulling these together that everything's going to be a happy time. But what we found as I get into it and create it, that actually there were some good things that came from this and will help for the future. And you know, we all say, well, I'm not going to do that again. I learned my lesson. How many times, I'm 75, I'd hate to say how many times that I've done something where I go, ooh, that wasn't very smart, and I'm not going to do that again. But then later on, do something different, and you're in the same situation. So in other words, at my age, at 75, boy, I should have a lot of things that have gone wrong that I fixed. So hopefully this got fixed today. But thank you very, very much, and my very, very best to everybody. And thank you, Games for Kids. And I hope you're having a good time in Bangladesh. Never been there. Certainly love history. And I know Bangladesh has had some of its interesting history over the years. And I certainly hope everything is good for you now. Take care. Thank you again.